Hi folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to be taking a very quick look at the game Soro of the Seas. This game is for 2 to 8 players, ages 8 and up, and the average play time is between 20 and 40 minutes. Like Soro, players are going to be trying to place tiles in such a way that keeps their piece on the board as long as possible. Only this time they're also going to be contending with something called Daikaiju tiles, which in Japanese simply means great flying monster. Let's just take a quick moment to look at the components and see how the game is played. Now, as far as the components are concerned, you have one giant 7x7 playing board, which is larger than the 6x6 playing board in Soro. You've got some wake tiles over here, and these wake tiles function the same way as the regular tiles in Soro did. You've got 8 different entrances on the tile, 2 on each side. And this is to ensure that all of the tiles fit together in some way on the board. Now you've also got these Daikaiju tiles over here, and again, these are the flying monsters that players will be seeing throughout the game. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. Alright, now there are 5 numbers listed on this tile. 4 are used for directional purposes whenever they move. You've got, for example, a 5 up here indicating that the dragon would move this way should this number be rolled. You got a 3, 2, and a 1. And you've also got this rotational number over here. This simply tells the dragon to rotate 90 degrees on the playing board, depending on the circumstances. Lastly, you have all of these ships here. Each player will pick one color and, like in Soro, place it along the outside of the board to start along one of those white notches that you see. Now, there are 2 dice that come with the game. This is also something new that you may not have seen in Soro. But basically, the dice are used for the spawning of the Daikaiju tiles, as well as helping them move around the board. Now, to set up the game, each player will receive 3 of these wake tiles, and they'll also receive one of these ships. Players will also spawn a certain number of these Daikaiju tiles, depending on how many people are playing the game. Now, to spawn one of these things, players will roll 2 dice. As you can see, one's colored blue and one's colored gold. Along the border of the board, along this side and along the top, you've got some numbers here. You've got numbers 1 through 6, and again, numbers 1 through 6. What will happen is players will roll the die, and they'll take a look at the coordinates shown on the die, 3 and 6. So that is where, in this instance, this Daikaiju tile will spawn. So let's see, 3 is here, and 6 is over here. Now, when setting up the game initially, you can rotate that randomly any way you like. Now, a player's turn is broken up into 2 parts. The first thing that the player will do on their turn is roll 2 dice. If it ends up being a 6, 7, or 8, that will initiate movement of all of the Daikaiju tiles by 1 space. And the order in which they move all depends on the rotation number listed on the tile. For example, this one, let me see if I can zoom in on that, indicates the number 4 up here, while this one indicates the number 3. Now, the manual states in the order of the rotation, so I'm going to assume that it's in ascending order starting from 1 and going up to 6, or whatever the case may be. So in this case, the 3 would move first, and the 4 would move after that. To simply move these guys, all you do is roll 1 die, and you'd follow whichever direction was listed on the tile. In this case, I rolled a 3. And it just so happens that the rotation number is listed as the 3. So in this event, the Daikaiju tile would not move and would simply rotate. Now, just to quickly illustrate that example again, I'm going to go ahead and roll the other die for that one. And it looks like the number 2 came up. And according to this, the number 2 is listed on the bottom here. So the Daikaiju tile will end up moving down 1 space. Now, once all of the Daikaiju tiles have moved 1 space, if the die roll in the beginning of the turn indicates that that should happen, the player will go ahead and place one of their wake tiles. And just like in Soro, you'll simply follow the path from the beginning of the tile to wherever the path leads. In this case, the yellow ship was here and would move along this curved path and end its turn at the end of the tile. Now, if there happens to be any more tiles at this point, the ship would simply follow that path all the way to its conclusion. Again, just like in Soro, if you happen to go off of the board, you're eliminated from the game. If you happen to run into a Daikaju tile, or if one runs into you, then you're also eliminated from the game. Another thing to consider is that these Daikaju tiles can actually destroy these wake tiles. Let's just say for the moment that there is a wake tile here, and this Daikaju tile was ordered to move this way on a particular turn. This Daikaju tile, or this wake tile, would be removed from the game, and any ship that happened to be on it too would also be destroyed. There are also a few other things to consider whenever you're moving these Daikaju tiles. For one, if a Daikaju tile happens to move on to another Daikaju tile, the moving one will destroy the stationary one, and this would just simply be removed from the board. Now, another thing that's very important to note, if the current player happens to move a Daikaju tile into a space adjacent to their own, they are removed from the game. However, all of the other pieces that might be adjacent to that Daikaju tile are safe. For example, in this case, let's say it was Yellow's turn, and this Daikaju tile, I'm going to butcher that word for the rest of the video, let's just say that Yellow moved this tile here. Now, because it was moved adjacent to Yellow's piece, Yellow would be removed from the game. However, White would be safe. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Players are going to be rolling at the beginning of every turn to see if any new Daikaju tiles get onto the board, or if the existing ones happen to move around. One thing I didn't note earlier was that if a die roll happens to be 6 when one is being moved, a new one is spawned. So you'll be spawning new monsters as well as moving existing ones around throughout the game. And players will also be playing these wake tiles to move their ship around the board and hopefully avoid these Daikaju tiles. The person that can stay alive the longest by being the last one standing wins the game. And there you have it. This is just a very quick look at the game Soro of the Seas. Nothing fancy, but it should give you an idea as to how the game is played. I personally like this new variant. I do think that the Daikaju tiles make things a bit more chaotic than they need to be. I personally enjoy playing this variant with fewer Daikaju tiles in play. I try to cap things off at like 2 or 3 tiles at a time on the board. If any more need to spawn, I just simply won't allow it. This allows players a bit more freedom to move around the board, but there's still the danger of being hit or running into one of those flying beasts. You can check out the rest of my thoughts via my review at www.dadsgamingaddiction.com, or you can simply click on the link in the below description. That'll take you there as well. This is Vincent Vinny Jr. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya!